really love the United States. Don't get me wrong, I see that it's lost its way, but I can remember a different America that was a lot kinder and gentler. Why I love America is growing up in Montreal, Canada was, America was this foreign country. Sure, you were only like a few miles, I don't know, 100 miles from where I lived or whatever, but it was a time in the 60s and that, and I was a kid, and the best TV shows were the ones that we could get when on a clear night from the States. And as a teenager, I used to go down to Vermont a lot for weekends, and that's where the cute girls were. It was like, I was in English in Quebec, and the French girls didn't really like English guys too much. I don't know, especially if you couldn't speak French. America seemed like a great adventure, and Vermont was an incredibly beautiful state with incredibly kind people, and I imagine it still is. You can't live in a place that beautiful and not have it affect your soul in a positive way. So upon reaching my 18th birthday, bicentennial year, I decided that I was going to hitchhike across America, which I did. I crisscrossed the entire country. I used to just stand by the side of the road and people would pick me up and go, "Oh, you're from Canada, tell me about Canada," and be so open, and it seemed to me less stuffy and stuck up than Canada. And some of the adventures we had. I remember in Vermont actually I went down to Cape Cod and then across the country ended up in San Francisco. And one of the first rides I got in Vermont was this old farmer, pickup truck, some kids, other hitchhikers in the back. And he pulls out this corncob pipe filled with some reefer. And this guy was like, old at the time, so he said, "Yeah, I growed this myself," and he did a very good job. And he talked about how he was in Panama in the 30s and learned about herb through his travels. Fascinating guy. Put some banjo music on, opened up the back window of the pickup truck, and we had a rolling party. I had gotten a ride, I think it was in New York State, and this guy stopped and seemed like a nice fella, had a nice new car. He picked me up. "Where are you going?" I said, "Well, I'm going to California." He says, "Well, me too, so you're welcome to ride along." I said, "Wow, this is cool, I'm going to get a ride all the way to California." So being young and naive, I said, "Sure, I'll put some gas in your tank, I'll fill up the tank." So there went a big chunk of my traveler's checks on filling up this great behemoth full of gas. And we get outside of Zanesville, Ohio, and the cops pull him over. And I looked at him, I said, "You weren't speeding, were you?" He said, "No." Look behind me, there's like cops all around the car with their guns drawn. "Don't move. Put your hands up on the dashboard." "Yeah, okay." So I was scared shitless, needless to say. It turned out this guy had stolen the car in New Hampshire and decided he was going to make his getaway with all of his wife's belongings or something. I don't know what the story was. But I was thinking, God, American jails, this is going to be really frightening and everything. So I had the handcuffs on me, threw me in the back of the squad car, and my mind's racing. I'm 19 years old, and I thought, what am I going to do? This, I can get in real shit here, right? So I look at him and I say, "What kind of engine you got in this car?" And he looks over. "Well, that's a 400 cubic inch 4-barrel son." And I said, "Really? You ever been shot at?" He goes, "No, but it's one of the risks and everything." I said, "Well, I'm just from Canada and I didn't expect any of this to happen." He looks at me and goes, "Those two cuffs too tight on you, boy?" I'm thinking, I knew I had them then. So they brought me to the police station, took the cuffs off. They checked my Canadian ID, saw that I wasn't a serial killer or anything. and said, okay, well, we'll let you go. And don't hitchhike anymore. You might get picked up by a criminal or something. So, yes, sir, I'm heading for the bus station. Go home right now. Of course, right back to the interstate and my thumb out. And the next ride was really cool after that, because after that traumatic experience, I'm telling this hippie that picked me up the story, and he goes, man, that sucks. That was really, that must have been really, really awful. Why don't you come to the house and rest up for a day or two? All right. So he turned out to be a musician, and I had a bunch of great friends. I had a nice, wonderful time with a group of American hippies in Zanesville, Ohio in 1976. So there's quite a few memorable moments from the summer of 1976. And really, in some ways, it was, for a young man, a better education than I could have gotten in school at the time. I recall one of my trips down to hitchhiking to Florida and having my tent by the side of the highway, just in some bushes at the side of the highway. I didn't even pitch it, I just crawled inside it because I was so tired that night. Fell asleep, woke up with the sun coming out, and I heard singing. I thought, well, okay, either I bought it or there's somebody on the highway singing. This confused my addled brain. Even at that age, I was useless without my morning coffee. Anyway, I come out in my tent, crawl out of the bushes, rub my eyes, and there's these two black guys singing a great song that I can't remember who did it, but it's called Free Ride. You just, come on and take a free ride. Well, I got out and met them, and we started chatting and started walking down the highway and singing together. So they were headed to Richmond, and they were just about my age, just young fellas. And having heard stories about the Deep South all my life, and of course seeing the movie caricatures of it, I was afraid for them. We had a few rides and finally got to Richmond, and I guess he dropped these fellows off and took me to this place where there was nothing but signs: no hitchhiking, hitchhikers will be prosecuted, like a nightmare location. And I guess the guy didn't like me because I was traveling with people of a different race. So I get out and throw my backpack on, start and look and think, well, the only thing is I gotta walk until the next exit and get the hell off this piece of road before some cop sees me. So I'm walking along, and this pickup truck with the gun rack pulls up in front of me, and I get in, and this really weird old dude started telling me all his guilty secrets, and that it was quite obvious quite quickly that the man was completely insane and heavily armed. Managed to finally convince him to pull over and let me out, and off I went, southbound, and nervous. You know what I mean, nervous, because I had long hair and I'd heard of all these stories about the South. Don't forget, this is more than 40 years ago. This car picked me up at night. Fella driving was the weirdest dude I'd ever met. He goes, I just got back from Hawaii, and if you open the glove box, I've got some toys in there. He's a happy-go-lucky guy. He says, no, I'll go open the glove box. So I open the glove box, and of course, he's got a big wooden bowl filled with Coke and a whole bunch of weed. Well, the weed I liked. The Coke had no interest, held no interest for me. Somehow, I think it would just give me a headache or something if I tried it, so I declined that. But I smoked this killer Hawaiian bud, and I'm traveling through the Georgia night with this guy with a bowl full of cocaine driving what he said was a rental car he was taking back to Florida. So he looked at me, and this guy, he was a real little guy. He was about, I don't know, seriously under 5 feet, which I didn't realize till we got out of the car at a rest stop. And I can still remember him going, "Chris, are you nervous?" And I'm going, "Yeah, well, of course I'm nervous, you know." And driving through the South, I'm far away from home, and you know, I heard stories and seen movies about all these big tough cops that were nasty and everything, and driving on the interstate with a bowl full of cocaine and a bunch of weed. "No, I'm not nervous." He goes, "It's good to be scared." I said, "It is?" He says, "Yeah, keeps you on your toes." Eventually, we crossed into Florida, and the sun was rising, and it was a beautiful sight, so I decided to abandon this latest gem of a ride and begin to enjoy the Florida sunshine. I made my way to the outskirts of Daytona Beach. I wanted to just sleep on the beach and take in some sunshine and meet some nice people. So this van pulls up. And it had tinted windows. And you remember the vans from back in the 70s with the, you know, had its decorations on that were airbrushed and tacky as hell. I didn't think anything of it, and I jumped in and sat down and looked around and went, "Uh-oh." And it was a van full of transvestites and big guys, and I was the skinny little kid from Canada sitting there going, a little nervous, to say the least. And they were nice guys, though, so, you know, my prejudices or whatever were unfounded. But when they pulled in to get gas and got out of the van, one of the guys said, "Oh, these guys will never hurt you. They're sweet guys, and they're just toying with you." So fear ended, and one more prejudice down the tubes. They were female impersonators that were playing a show in Daytona Beach, and took me to the beach and let me go, and I went, "Oh, this is cool. Now, are there any cute girls around?" When I think of the warmth and openness of so many Americans during that time who brought me to their home, gave me meals, became my friends, it makes me especially sad to see the vast division in America, and wish for a time when empire does not take precedence over citizens. So I'd like to start making this channel a little more positive, a little bit more upbeat, not quite so cynical, simply because I can't take all the doomsday and cynicism and everything 24/7. It doesn't mean I'm sticking my head in the sand. It means that sometimes I need a mental rest from seriousness, from heavy issues that admittedly we're all facing. Doing this is gratifying in that I have met so many good people that I would not have met otherwise. A great bunch of people. And, you know, sometimes people like to squabble over some issues, and I'm just tired of arguing. I'm tired. I don't know. You can go through YouTube and watch things and see the terrible intolerance we all have towards each other. And it's time to break that. It's time to stop that. It's time to realize that there is no left, there is no right. There's only the people versus the plutocracy. Let's be open to dialogue that is not based on ego, but is based on our common humanity. That's what makes Vegemadic different. I'm not Vegematic. Take care, everybody.